Good evening. I want to welcome you to the October 19th, 2022 regular meeting of the Governing Board of the Chandler Unified School District. Mrs. Nye, could you start with our roll call, please? Here.
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 Thank you, Mrs. Nye. Would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. We'll start off with a little bit of routine business. First is approving the minutes of the September 28th, 2022 regular board meeting. Could I please get a motion?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the September 28th, 2022 regular board meeting as presented.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes of the September 28th, 2022 regular board meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next, we have to approve and ratify payroll and accounts payable vouchers. Could I get a motion, please?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve and ratify payroll and accounts payable vouchers.
Second.
All those in favor of approving and ratifying payroll and accounts payable vouchers, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Mr. Narducci, do we have any correspondence this evening?
Madam President, at this time there is no correspondence.
Thank you very much. Next, we have some awards, and those are going to be announced by Ms. Stephanie Ingersoll. And we have some teachers who have, and a teacher and a principal who have received some awards recently.
Thank you, President Marsden. Superintendent Narducci has a few words that he would like to say about our honorees.
These are so special that I took the privilege of taking that from Ms. Ingersoll to be able to read this myself, because we have two outstanding individuals. If the board would like to join us on right in front of the dais here, I would like this evening to recognize two Chandler Unified School District employees, or as we call them, family members. One is Rachna Nath and the other is Kristen Kinghorn. And I will start with, once the board gets down here, we'll start with Dr. Rachna Nath, if she would mind coming up. And we'll have you right up there. Yeah, that's great. It's an honor to recognize Rachna Nath, who teaches biology at Arizona College Prep High School. Rachna was just named the Michael A. Kosanovich Arizona Bioscience Educator of the Year. She received this award at the Arizona Bio Awards event last month. Rachna has been a part of CUSD since 2017, and in that time, she has received numerous state and national awards, accolades, and recognitions, including earning a spot on Time Magazine's first ever list of innovative teachers in the country. Rachna, you are a transformational leader who is inspiring learning and changing lives every day. We thank you for all that you do for our students and for inspiring us to do better and be better. Thank you. Next, we would like to recognize Kristen Kinghorn, our principal over at Anderson Elementary School. Kristen may be coming up a little slower because she just got back from Washington, D.C. from the break. Kristen is the principal of Anderson Elementary School, as I said, and she was named a distinguished administrator by the Arizona School Administrators and a national distinguished principal by the National Association of Elementary School Principals. Kristen has been with CUSD for 5 years and is currently leading the Anderson astronauts to become our first International Baccalaureate or IB Primary Years Program school. In a rapidly changing world, the IB program aims to place students as agents of their own learning through an inquiry-based cross-disciplinary curriculum framework that meets rigorous standards and conceptual understandings. This is a lot of work. This student-centered approach is future-focused education at its best. Kristen, we thank you for all that you do, and best of luck on your IB journey, but also thank you for bringing this recognition to the Chandler community and to the Chandler School District. Congratulations.
We always enjoy recognizing our staff and our students for their really great accomplishments. And this is, I think, some of the nicest times so that we can also share with our community what our staff and students are doing. So thank you so much. Next, we will have our student body president report, Ella Choi from Castile High School. Is Ella here?
Which school?
Good evening, Madam President, Mr. Narducci, and members of the board. I'd like to thank you for having me tonight. Although we've just finished our first quarter, our school has had some amazing events I'm excited to share with you all. My name is Ella Choi, and I'm proud to serve as Castile High School's student body president for the 2022-2023 school year. We have, at the end of September, we had our homecoming, lights, camera, action, and it was a great success. Student government worked extremely hard to put on this event, and I can confidently say this was our best homecoming week yet. We have continued our tradition of hosting Clash Wars, where each grade level competes in various games, such as Foursquare Dodgeball, Hungry Hippos, and a dance battle to be crowned the champions of this event. This year, seniors took the win. Everyone had a lot of fun, and we had our biggest turnout ever. Additionally, we had our very first homecoming parade. This gave the opportunity for clubs, athletics, and each grade level to create their own float. We recognized our homecoming royalty and had our homecoming DJ MC the festivities. This was an amazing event that brought our community together, and I cannot wait to see this tradition continue at Castile. The night ended with our blackout-themed homecoming football game. Before the game, we had our homecoming court walk out on the field, and Dr. Castile crowned our king and queen. We had a color toss at kickoff and special performances by Palm, Cheer, Project 15, and our very own band during halftime. It was a packed house at Joel Worth Stadium with a Castile Colts win over Casa Grande.
There you go, Joe.
The following day was our homecoming dance. I would like to thank Rock Point Church for being so kind to host our event. We had a red carpet with multiple photo booths and a large Hollywood sign to welcome our students. Stugo worked tirelessly to put on the homecoming week events, and we are looking forward to planning our second quarter events. We are amazed with the determination and hard work of our athletic programs here at Castile. Our unified sports team had a great, inclusive football season, and we are looking forward to the upcoming soccer season. Additionally, our men's golf team won the inaugural Rich Meserol Riggs Rivalry Cup. Our women's golf took first place at Peaks Invitational as a team with Jordan Coing medaling. Both golf teams traveled to Fort Myers, Florida to participate in the Bishop Farrell Invitational and did very well. I'm extremely proud of our Castile badminton team to making it to state for their first time. The ladies will represent Castile in the singles and double division. Last week was wonderful for both varsity and JV badminton, ending the season with wins. Women's volleyball is 5-1, and we cannot wait to watch the rest of their season. Also, our football team is 5-1, and the Channel 12 News Friday Night Fever crew came out to recognize them for their success. We look forward to supporting them at their next big game against Perry this Friday. Our very own head football coach, Coach Newcomb, was awarded the Arizona Cardinals Coach of the Week. We are so grateful for all he has done for our Castile community and our football team. Our students here at Castile truly emphasize our core values: courage, character, and commitment. I'd like to congratulate Madeline Solonic and Bradley Flowers for being recognized by the National Merit Scholarship Program with their letters of commendation for their outstanding academic achievement. Another one of our seniors, Zachary Davis, wrote and conducted the piece, The Harvest Moon. This was the debut performance for choir. He received a 5 on the AP Music Theory test and has been composing these outstanding pieces ever since. Also, Bianca Oshilling was selected to be Chief Science Officer for her work with TGen. She is now working in the leadership that runs the statewide program to bring this opportunity to our Castile Colts. We cannot be more proud of what they have accomplished thus far and cannot wait to see what great things they accomplish in their futures. Along with that, we have been spreading kindness here at Castile. Our Bring Change to Mind Club honored National Suicide Prevention Month by offering students positive affirmations and candy during lunch in September. Sugo has also worked hard to create these beautiful bulletin boards around the school. Here is our Take What You Need board, where students can take sticky notes that have positive messages to brighten their day. Our band had their first competition of the season. They received 4th place in the division with percussion caption and 2nd place for auxiliary. They've also done an outstanding job at our football games, and we are so impressed by their great accomplishments. Further, our choir has had some amazing performances the last few months. Encore sang the national anthem for the CEF golf tournament. Our amazing student teacher, Mecca Sampler, who graduated from Basha, has been working with our junior higher choir, Triple Threat, and they have had their first high school concert of the year. As you see here, the Encore members specialize in jazz and sing on individual mics. I'm excited to introduce our community service initiative for this quarter. Light the Night for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. One fact about the LLS is that they have helped 614 patients in Arizona, receiving over $5.2 million in financial assistance through the LLS Copay Assistance Program. We start collecting donations November 1st, and it goes through November 18th. On November 17th, we will be participating at the Light the Night event located at Sloan Park. It is open to the public, and I would love to see you all there. Please let me know if you'd be interested in participating. This is all for the events at Castile for the first quarter. We are so grateful for this opportunity to share with you the success our school has had, and our student government has played a tremendous role in these accomplishments. Now, I would like to introduce Castile High School student leaders. On our executive board, we have our Vice President, Roslyn Hernandez, Secretary, Keely Topol, Treasurer, AJ Gomez, Co-Historians, Ashlyn Drew and Jenna Mitchell, our Co-Spirit Commissioners, Kendall Hudson and Regan Svedson, and our Publicity Officers, Ella Church, Audrey Barra, Cameron Anderson, and Riley Rustad. We also have our Community Service Liaison, Ella Dudley. Our Senior Class President is Cadence Turner, followed by our Senior Class Representatives. Our Junior Class President is Jane Moreno-Hankey, followed by our Junior Class Representatives. Unfortunately, our Sophomore Class President cannot be here tonight, but we have our Sophomore Class Reps. And our Freshman Class President is Caden Olson, followed by our Freshman Class Representatives. Last but not least, our fantastic advisors, Ms. Fredrickson and Mrs. Culver. I am so honored to be able to present our school to you all tonight. I'm proud of the amazing cult culture we have at our school that student government has promoted. We would not be able to do this without our sponsors, Ms. Fredrickson and Mrs. Culver, and our outstanding admin. Thank you again for this opportunity, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Thank you, Ella. We appreciate you giving us an update about Castile, and we also appreciate all of your members of Stugo showing up tonight and letting us get to briefly meet them. So we appreciate the leadership that all of you exhibit at Castile and the work that you do to bring the student body together and make Castile a really great place to go to school. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thanks for coming. Next, we will have our citizens' comments. Stephanie Ingersoll will be introducing all of our speakers. We have three individuals who want to speak tonight, and so they will get 3 minutes each.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Narducci. As a courtesy, we provide an opportunity for the public to submit citizen comments electronically on any topic. This week, we've had 5 comments. Our feedback related to the governing board meetings. Submitting comments electronically provides our governing board members time to read and prepare prior to the meeting. This format also provides the board an opportunity to ask clarifying questions to the administration. You have the submissions verbatim for the consideration, and they are also available on the website for public review. During public comments, members of the governing board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to state statute, action taken as a result of public comments is limited to directing staff to review the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. The board president reserves the right to ensure that the speakers present on topics that are within the board's jurisdiction. Everyone is asked to present their comments in a respectable and courteous manner. Profanity or threats of harm will not be tolerated. Our first speaker to speak on parents and teachers is Constant Lappinjade.
Good morning, good evening. Sorry about that. Okay, so this feels a little weird. Okay. Chandler Unified School District is a premier school district in the greater Phoenix metro area, possibly all of Arizona. The teachers from elementary to high school are excellent and dedicated to our children's best education. We are number one, right? Unfortunately, this could all be in jeopardy. We have legislators and parents passing laws that say they get to pick our children's curriculum and not the educators, the true professionals that study and continue to study and improve education for our kids. The true professionals. Unless you are a K-12 public educator, I don't want you as a politician picking what can and can't be taught. Government micromanaging our school districts takes away a district's ability to be nimble and adapt to the community's needs. I hope that all the high school students that are watching, whether you're going to be 18 or not, can look at all the candidates running for school board, research them. Do they match your educational beliefs? We have candidates using what's called moral panic, a word I recently learned. It means widespread feeling of fear, a widespread feeling of fear, often an irrational one, that some evil person or thing threatens the values, interests, or well-being of a community or society. Using trigger words like CRT and indoctrination to create unfounded fear is pretty horrible in my opinion, and it undermines our teachers, and teachers are not just leaving the district because of money. They're leaving because of a lack of respect also, and a lack of credibility that is being shown to them. If you're not old enough to vote, help your parents make the choice. If parents don't like what a teacher is teaching, they can talk to that teacher. They can talk to the head of that department, whether it's fourth grade team or the English leader. They could talk to the principal. They could talk to Mr. Narducci. They could talk to other district members here. They have plenty of avenues. And furthermore, if they really don't like the curriculum at Chandler, which is a premier school, there are multitudes of charter schools they could choose from. So I would hope that our next school board members make sure that they are ones that will support our teachers and our
30
students.
seconds.
Thank you.
Our next speaker to speak on student rights is Ganix Gallo.
Madam President and members of the board, I'm Canix Gallo. I'm a part of Support Equality Arizona Schools. There's not much I have to say because we've been here before and most of it has already been said. I asked other students to be here tonight to speak as well, and the ones I asked aren't here. They aren't here because they're scared. They're scared of the discrimination they've faced and aren't sure which places are safe anymore. For some, home isn't safe, school isn't safe, and even out in public, they've been discriminated against for their gender or sexuality. The big issue I personally want to talk about right now is the lack of support for trans students in school. I, as a trans student myself, do not feel safe nor included in school. I'm the president of Chandler High School's GSA club, and the amount of times I've heard from a trans student in the club that they don't feel comfortable at school is far too many to count. I constantly have students asking me what they can do to help themselves feel more included and comfortable as a trans person, and I rarely have a good response for them because the issue isn't them. It's people in higher places who can be doing more for our schools, such as admin and the school board. If you are wondering what I mean by not comfortable, I am referring to the constant dead naming and misgendering of trans students in classrooms, not allowing trans students a space that they can feel comfortable in changing and going to the restroom, and forcing these students to compete with the wrong gendered athletics. These issues are because people aren't informed. A simple solution to help end dead naming and misgendering trans students would be to have teachers go through trainings or seminars on the subject. Teach them how to understand and accept these students because that's all we want. We aren't asking for much, just simple human rights. I would have hoped we would have those without having to fight. I don't want to lose anyone else because of discrimination. We've lost far too many students already. I hope you consider that and consider how these students feel. Thank you.
Our third speaker speaking on LGBTQ students is Dawn Shim.
Madam President and members of the board, my name is Dawn Shim. I'm a junior at Hamilton High School. You probably already know me by now. As Canix has stated, we at Support Equality Arizona Schools are tired of having to come here day after day to these board meetings where it doesn't feel like half of the time you are listening to what we are saying. But we have shown you what we are capable of as students. In the week before break on Thursday, about 600 students from our Chandler Unified School District walked out of their classrooms to protest these bills that you are implementing. These bills are Policy IHAMB and Policy KB. You have told us that you cannot do anything about this. This is not true. In the past, there have been school boards who have gone against policies that have been passed down from the state. It's incredibly disappointing that you are not taking any measures to stop these bills that are killing students. I'm going to read you an excerpt of the speech that we read at our walkout. We're telling you that these bills are killing us. They're killing our peers, and we do not need any more students hurt by your actions. We aren't out here missing our school day and interrupting our education because we want to. We have been forced into demonstrating by your deliberate choices to marginalize minority and LGBTQ students. You can do better. We have a list of comprehensive and simple demands that have been come about because of your refusal to implement simple policies that will take care of students. 1, meet with LGBTQ or any kind of students in an organized board setting at least 2 times a quarter. 2, establish a student liaison position on the board with a joint student committee to echo student voices, because too often we hear school board members saying, students think blank, and then another member responds with, no, actually they think blank. This could be removed if you had an actual student letting you know what they thought. 3, refuse to implement the 2 HBs into our schools through policy IHAMB and policy KB. This is extremely important. Students are dying in our school district, and LGBTQ students are one of the most at risk. 4, do not refer to students by name in board unless they hold a position as it puts students under danger. That is a very large reason in which we couldn't have more students join us here today. They do not feel safe when you refer to them by their first and last name in a board setting. We have shown you that we are capable of demonstrating against these actions. We have gathered 600 to 800 students, and we promise the next time it will be more. We have garnered national attention. We are on the Hill, and we will be back if you don't do anything. Take action now.
I want to thank all the speakers for coming this evening. We appreciate hearing your thoughts, and we will move on to our consent agenda. Mr. Narducci.
Thank you, Madam President. The consent agenda, first, we have 8.01 out-of-state student travel pre-planning, out-of-state field trip pre-planning forms for Camille Castile High School and Hamilton High School are provided. Following governing board pre-approval, we will look at and monitor the trip arrangements before providing final approval. The governing board will receive a summary of the final travel arrangements quarterly. Under 8.02, monetary gifts, we request the approval of the monetary gifts generously donated to Chandler Unified School District totaling $67,278.05. Under donations, we have requested the approval of the items generously donated to Chandler Unified School District totaling $51,314.45. Under 8.04, instructional program policy revisions. Arizona School Boards Association recommended changes to the following policies. Policy IJL, Library Material Selection and Adoption, where House Bill 2439 instructs school districts and charter school governing boards to adopt procedures that provide parents access to a school's library collection and a list of books and materials their children borrow. This required list is included in IJNC, the policy that applies to libraries. IJL is a policy that applies to the selection and adoption of materials. House Bill 2439 also revised IGL as follows. For books and materials purchased for school libraries after January 1st, 2023, the law creates a public review period that requires districts and charter schools to notify parents at least 7 days prior the public view period begins and ends. The law also requires the superintendent to place new books and materials on the websites for a minimum of 60 days. Finally, this does not apply to replace lost or damaged books or materials. IJL was revised to include that the governing board will comply with House Bill 2439. Policy IJNC, resource centers and media centers and school libraries. House Bill 2439 instructs school districts and charter school governing boards to adopt procedures that provide parents access to a school's library collection and a list of books and materials their child borrows. This is not required by law until January 1, 2023. These changes were presented as information at the September 28, 2022 Governing Board meeting, along with the corresponding regulations and exhibits. We're requesting approval of the policies. Regulations and exhibits do not require board approval. 8.05, MOU, or Memorandum of Understanding between Chandler Unified School District and Chicanos Por la Casa Early Childhood Development Program. The Memorandum of Understanding between CUSD and Chicanos Por la Casa Early Childhood Development Program outlines the responsibilities of a child find according to the IDEA between CUSD and Chicanos por la Casa. This agreement has been in place and renewal of the agreement is requested. The district is responsible for the identification, evaluation, and placement of students ages 3 through 5 suspected of a preschool delay who reside in the Chandler Unified School District boundaries. We recommend approval of this MOU. 8.06 is an RFP 34-23-27 Mental Health Services. A request for proposal was issued by Chandler Unified School District for Mental Health Services. The purpose of the RFP is to enter into a contract with firms or agencies and individuals to provide mental health services for CUSD students and to provide support for CUSD mental health professionals and parents. The RFP was posted on Arizona Purchasing, and a total of 335 vendors were notified. 7 vendors responded. 3 vendors are awarded. They are the Hope Institute of America, Lighthouse Well Health, and Southwest Behavioral and Health Services. Per AAC R7-2-1024, the district reserves the right to make multiple awards to more than one vendor. Due to the mental health services needed district-wide, it was determined that awarding multiple vendors would be the most advantageous to the district to meet the needs of our students. A committee of 7 evaluators evaluated the responses based upon the evaluation criteria. The contract will be for 1 year with the option to renew on an annual basis for 4 additional years. Requesting governing board approval for the award of RFP 34-23-27 for mental health services for the 22-23 school year. 8.07, 1 GPA contract 18-19 PV-02. We're requesting governing board approval to utilize diversified flooring services, 1 GPA contract 18-19 PV-02 for flooring products and services for estimated expenditures of $2 million for fiscal year 2022-23. The district is planning multiple flooring replacements and preventative maintenance projects district-wide. All projects will comply with the required procurement rules. Additionally, I'd just like to add that those projects are at ACP Middle School, District Office, Liberty Elementary School, Goodman Elementary School, Jacobson Elementary School, Humphrey Elementary School, Shumway, and Fry. 1 GPA contract 22-14 PV-05, the governing board approved a Unitech Mechanicals 1 GPA contract for the replacement of whole elementary's chillers on June 22nd, 2022. Unitech Mechanical was recently acquired by Pueblo Mechanical and Controls. The district is requesting approval to utilize Pueblo Mechanical and Controls 1 GPA contract 22-14 PV-05 for the remaining portion of the fiscal year of 22-23 with an estimated expenditure of $700,000. 8.09 Mojave contract. The governing board approved Copper State Fire Protection Mojave Contract 17L-CFP 1115 on June 22nd, 2022. Mojave Cooperative Agency has awarded a new contract for fire alarm systems, fire suppression systems, fire extinguishers, backflows, installations, and services. The district is requesting governing board approval to utilize the new Mojave contract for Copper State Fire Protection 22C-CFP2-0606 with estimated annual expenditures of $1,500,000 as the district is considering replacing the fire alarm systems at Bogle Junior High School and CTA Goodman Elementary School. 8.10, support services and warehouse parking lot asphalt. The asphalt parking lot at the support services and warehouse facility is the original asphalt from 1987. The asphalt has reached its end of life expectancy and is failing in many areas. It's recommended that the asphalt be replaced. The district will contract with Roadrunner Paving and Asphalt Maintenance, utilizing the 1 GPA contract number 2215P-03, which complies with all school procurement rules. Recommend approval of Roadrunner paving and asphalt maintenance in the amount of $519,090.90 for the asphalt replacement of the support services and warehouse parking facility. And lastly, 8.11 Human Resources, recommending the employment separation, compensation, and job descriptions as posted.
Thank you, Mr. Narducci. Could I get a motion, please?
Madam President, I would like to make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you. The motion carries. Next, we have our only action item, and Dr. Jennifer Fletcher will be presenting some of our 22-23 Journey 2025 Board Achievement Goals.
We request the approval of minor modifications to the 2022-2023 Journey 2025 Board Achievement Goals as follows. Change in the following metrics. Addition of a growth calculation in proficiency rates for 1D, that is our equity proficiency percentages. Addition of a growth calculation in graduation rates for 1F, equity graduation rates. Inclusion of ACT Aspire and ACT statewide assessments for grades 9 and 11 respectively into 2A grade level proficiency. All board achievement benchmarks will remain the same as prior years to ensure CUSD continues to strive to reach our goals.
Thank you, Dr. Fletcher. Could I please get a motion?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the 2022-2023 Journey 2025 Board Achievement Goals as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion or comments or questions from the board? I believe we had a study session on this a little while ago, and that we're looking at I'm very glad to see some of the growth calculations included in it, because that's a significant portion of some of the criteria for basically school grades also. For individual schools. And I think that by including those, it also helps our schools focus on the growth of those individual students and the growth of the school as a whole. It's really part of the philosophy of continuous improvement. And do you have any other comments on that, Dr. Fletcher?
No, you summed that up very well.
Okay. Thank you. I think I missed the meeting in which you were doing these, but I did review the study session and did get all the big points on that one. So are there any other questions? No? Okay, all those in favor of adopting the new Journey 2025 Board Achievement Goals for the school year 22-23, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Next, we have our student activity reports. Mrs. Berry?
Madam President, members of the board, the student activity report for months ending July of 2022 through September of 2023 are provided for your review. As you know, there's not an auxiliary or tax credit one that's on this board agenda, and the reason for that is we just finished with the AFR. We're rolling the balances, and then you'll get the reports in the future.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
And could you remind everyone that the student activity funds are, how those are generated?
Great question, Ms.
And what they
President.
can be used for?
And by statute, the student activity report is required to be presented to the board each month. So student activity funds are generated by students. They have to have a bylaw and are approved by the student council. And then they are raised by students. They are deposited into accounts, and then they have to vote and have minutes before they can spend those dollars. So it's a great process for kids. We are really fortunate. All of our schools have a number of student activities in each of their schools.
And what happens when it's not student council, if it's a club or an athletic team?
Sure. So clubs and athletic teams can have a student activity. They can have an account. If not, they can also set up, a lot of times they'll have a tax credit account. That's different. It's a different fund if tax credit wants to come in. Or there's auxiliary accounts. For example, if there's a tournament that needs to be set up, or if there is facilities that are rented out. There's different funds, different ways between auxiliary, civic center, all kinds of different funds that we have to set up. They're all set up by statute, so it's kind of ran by what the statute says, which fund they have to be participate in and deposit money into.
And are all of these funds, they carry over from year to year, and they have to basically be on deposit with our bank to have those funds immediately, pretty much immediately available for students.
Yes,
if they
so the legislature has done a good job of actually setting up different funds within our schools. And so we have to account for them very specifically. It's like a checking account, lots of different checking accounts, student activities, auxiliary, tax credit, civic center, which is like renting the facilities, community ed, which is services after school. Those are all cash funds, so they roll over from one year to the next. However, if the senior class ends and they're no longer the senior class, they can make a donation to the freshman class coming in for the next year. Or if they're not touched for a number of years, we can roll it over into the school's student activity account versus an individual account. There are some parameters in that.
Thank you for the clarifications. Appreciate it. Next, we have our private day tuition expenditures. Dr. Marshall.
Hi, Madam President, governing board members. The list of private day school tuition expenditures for the first quarter of the 22-23 school year is provided for your review. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board? All right. Thank you, Dr. Marshall. Next, we have revision of policy JLCB and JLCBR, immunizations of students. Dr. Gilbert.
Madam President, members of the board, for your information, Arizona School Board Association recommended changes to policy JLCB and regulation JLCB-R, immunizations of students. Policy JLCB was updated and adopted at the September 28, 2022 meeting to include the Arizona law that precludes COVID-19 from the list of required immunizations. ASBA was notified of inconsistencies between policy JLCB and regulation JLCB-R. This prompted ASBA staff to conduct a full overhaul of JLCB and JLCB-R. The policy now refers readers directly to the regulation, where the previous policy listed out each required immunization. The regulation now reflects directly what is required by the Department of Health Services. Chandler Unified School District recommends adopting the policies as proposed by SBA. The changes are presented as information, and approval of policy JLCB will be requested at the November 16th, 2022 board meeting. Regulations do not require board approval.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. Are there any questions or comments from the board? All right. We also have new policy JLDAB, regulation JLDAB-R, and exhibit JLDABE, referrals to other agencies. That was a mouthful. Dr. Gilbert.
And XYZ, right? Okay. Madam President, members of the board, for your information, ASBA recommended new policy JLDAB, regulation JLDAB-R, and exhibit JLDAB-E, referrals to other agencies. In 2020, the Arizona legislature passed Jake's Law, which created a fund that provides uninsured and underinsured children access to behavioral health services when they are referred through an educational institution, otherwise known as school-based referrals. JLDAB, JLDAB-R, and JLDABE are new to ASBA's manual. The documents provide a mechanism for a school district and charter schools to refer children to community-based behavioral health providers and to have those services paid for by the child's behavioral health services funded or access. The policy is optional, meaning that the law does not require schools to make school-based referrals. However, if the school elects to make these referrals, a policy is mandatory. JLDAB is a policy that enables the statute to work as intended. JLDABR or -R is a regulation the superintendent may utilize to achieve the goal of the policy JLDAB. And JLDABE is an exhibit of the survey superintendent may utilize to comply with the statute and policy. These new documents are presented as information. Approval will be requested for the policy at the November 16th, 2022 board meeting. Regulations and exhibits do not require board approval.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. Are there any questions or comments? Mrs. Bruner?
Yeah, I did want to. So, after having conversations and reading up a little bit on how this is playing out in the state, it seems like it has great intention that we want to cover students who don't otherwise have access to services, and yet there seems to be a lot of applications and then not a lot of students receiving those services. And so I was wondering if at some point in the future, in the next couple months, there could be something we could ask Mrs. Vargas or someone to share with us about what are those barriers, and is there anything we can do about that? Is there a way to work in the system a little more efficiently? Because it seems like many schools, not just Chandler students, but many students, it's a very long process to prove that there isn't another source of funding. And then by the time that this whole thing happens, the student, may be going through crisis, and it's, beyond the point where it would have been much more useful in a timely manner. So I was wondering if maybe we could get some information, and I think it applies to this a little bit, to the exhibit and the regulation here.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, and this policy change or added came out earlier this year, and it wasn't something we had brought to the board, but it was something we knew about, and we were trying to figure out how that was sitting within the community. But knowing that and the board just approved the RFP that we have put forth, that our team is working on, so that we have a pre to a post-vention. We wanted to make sure that we had this in place, because as we start our own process to make sure our students within Chandler have resources, whether it's working with them, whether they're uninsured or underinsured, we can make sure that we are following the actual law to be able to refer as we're moving forward. So we can definitely get more information for you as we venture into this and wade into this water piece of it.
Are there any other comments or questions? All right, we will move on to the 2021-2022 statewide assessment results. I believe that Dr. Fletcher will be presenting that.
All right, good evening, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight I will be reviewing with you our 2021-2022 statewide assessment results. A few key pieces just to keep in mind as we go through this. So we are speaking about our AASA, grades 3 through 8, English Language Arts and Math statewide assessment, and our ACT grade 11 assessment. Our students last year did take ACT Aspire grade 9, but the state has not yet established standards and cut scores for their performance levels by that grade, so we do not have those results yet. One of the most important facets of this is I want to walk you through kind of how we use the data to drive improvements and additional supports for students. And then obviously, as you're aware, this is a huge component of our Journey 2025 board achievement goals. All right, we're going to start at a high level, dive deep. There are quite a few slides. I'm going to walk through just how we look at them. In the future, I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner, but I thought of it a few hours ago. I'm going to also start including an analysis slide that kind of tells you what we look at and what we look for, so we can start helping our stakeholders and our community members learn more about what you should look at when you're analyzing data. So I'll give you that verbally today, but in the future, you'll see that as a slide, so it'll also help you kind of work through the data sets, because there's a lot. All right, so first we're going to start, we always look at our trend analysis, right? Year over year, how is CUSD doing in English Language Arts and Math, and we compare to the state. So you'll see that last year we had a 58% proficiency rate on English Language Arts, and a 53% in math. No surprise, we always are outperforming the state, right? But what is really important that I want us to focus on is, given we're returning from a pandemic, right, our ELA results are only 1% away from 2019, which is our pre-pandemic, right? And just a reminder, 2020, there was no testing. We did make some great strides in math. We moved from 49% to 53%, but we still have a 5% return that we need to get back to those pre-COVID proficiency rates. We also like to do a comparison of our district to neighboring or districts similar in size and demographics to us. So you'll see our dark blue bars, right? Chandler on the left, light blue are all the other districts. Green on the far right is the state. We were at a 58% in English language arts, so that ranked us second, tied with Deer Valley, right, with Scottsdale coming in first. Now that is only ranking of the districts that are similar in demographic and size to us, right? So you'll see that little footnote at the bottom. We include Gilbert, Higley, and Queen Creek because they are neighboring districts, but not similar to us demographically. All right, so similar analysis here by math. Again, we were at 53%. Compared to the districts like us, we ranked second, with Scottsdale ranking first at 57%. All right, we also like to look at grade levels, right? We need to see where should we support our students, what grades are doing well, or do we have certain grades that are struggling? So I know this is a lot of data on the slide. Most important here, grades 3, 6, and 7 saw an increase in their English language arts proficiency rates compared to prior year. Even better than that, grades 3 and 6 are outperforming their pre-pandemic proficiency rates. So we will take that win. But what that tells us, right, is grades 4, 5, 7, and 8 still have room to improve, okay? So that will be a focus area for us moving forward. Likewise, if we look at math.
I got a question.
Yeah, go back.
Why would there be that much variation between the different grades?
A whole slew of factors. I mean, honestly, it could be so much. It's a norm that we see across the state. There's something particular that happens in grades 7 and 8 and grade 6 where we start to see the declines. Where students struggle, there's a lot more social impact. There's a lot of other factors going on. Also, if they haven't got the necessary tools and skills they needed early on, this is where we really start to see them struggle academically, and that displays itself in a proficiency result. But it is a state trend, that decline, starting at 6th grade down up to 7, 8.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just follow up on that a little bit? So is that across the country where you see that the data sinks in junior high? Or is that because of the cut scores they use in Arizona?
I think you see it somewhat, but it's hard to compare since every state is using a different assessment.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, so if you recall, one of the big focuses we had last year for our ESSER 3 funding was in math. So we had some significant gains. Grades 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8 all made improvements in their proficiency rates. Grade 7 was the only one that saw a decline. Despite those improvements, though, you'll notice we are still not to pre-pandemic proficiency rates. So the good news is we are still continuing in math, right? We know that it's not a one-year tackle and we're done and we move on. So we are continuing in a math focus. What this data shows us also is that we can't neglect English language arts, right, and strictly focus on one subject area. We really need to be highlighting them in tandem.
If I can add something, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, one of the things that came about from the state perspective is that they saw a lot of drop in elementary, and we didn't see that big drop in our elementary. So I just wanted to at least give some kudos to our elementary teachers.
Great. And we are one of the top performing in ACT at the high school level. So, okay, now we're going to deep dive into our subgroups. So I'm going to take a brief moment to tell you some of the things that we look for. So the first thing we are going to analyze is we look for, is there an increase or decrease from prior year, right? Second, we want to look at our trend analysis, especially important right now given that we have pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, right? So we really want to try to return our proficiency rates to pre-pandemic results. We always look for gaps, right, by subgroups, by grade. And then we also compare to the state, right? We want to see how we're doing to the state, not only on a proficiency level, but did the state see similar rates of increase or decrease that we did? And then we also do that at a subgroup level. So that's a lot of data to talk through, which is why I'm not going to present all of it. We're going to go through a high level first on gender. I'm going to give you a high level on ethnicity, show you an example, and then a high level on all of our programs. So first, we're going to start with gender, right? This is not surprising. Our trends, as well as the states, females perform better in English language arts compared to males. You can see that we still have a gap there between our subgroups that we need to address. We are doing better than the state, again, not surprisingly. You'll notice, though, if you look at that yellow Chandler Unified male line, that our males had a greater or a steeper rate of increase compared to the state. So that is good. We're working to close the gap, but we still have room to improve. Now, the opposite is true in math, right? Our males perform better in math than our females. And you will see unique trends for us and the state, right? We're seeing those declines during COVID. Now we are returning up, but back in 2018, you can see how close our gap was between males and females on math. So we have a long way to go, not just to get back to those proficiency rates, but really addressing closing that gap.
A quick question.
Yeah.
Is there not state data available prior to 2019 for gender?
You know, I just looked at that like an hour ago and was wondering the same thing.
Okay.
There should be. So I'm not sure why it's not displaying. I'll find it and get you a new image.
Thank you.
I wondered if you would catch that. I should know. You know, I had that thought as well, but it's probably highly unlikely. Okay, so if you recall last year when I went through this is a lot of information on one slide, right? We were trying to compare them. So I'm presenting it a different way this time. Hopefully that helps you see the data a little bit better. This is where I just want to touch on overview, right? There are a lot of different elements we could look at here. You can see our students, that blue line is our all student average, right? So you can see our Asian, white, and multiracial students above the state average. You can see all of our other subgroups below the state average, so clearly some gaps that need to be addressed. Our American Indian student population is the lowest at 29%, Asian the highest at 81%. So that is a significant gap, right, that we need to work on. If you also compare to prior year, right, you see that many of the subgroups are seeing an increase from last year in English language arts. The Native Hawaiian had a steep incline. While that is a small population of ours, that's still a success, right, that we saw. Let me see, what else do I have? There's a lot of data, right? So good news overall on ELA, some groups are outperforming pre-pandemic, but we still have room to grow.
So, but it looks like with our African American students, like they're continuing to trend down.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening there?
It's a good question, and that's something that we have to dive into, and we're going to look at addressing. Is it a lack of supports? Is there something instructionally that we need to modify or differentiate curriculum and instruction? So now that we've done the analysis, we can start having those deep dive conversations to try to puzzle solve, right, and find solutions.
Yeah, because even with our 2 or more races, if I'm seeing that correctly, that's trending down as well.
Yep.
So that's an interesting thing to
Absolutely.
see.
Agreed. I don't have a solution for you yet.
I know you don't. I was just asking for the audience.
I know.
You're doing great.
I know. It's all good. So math, again, exciting news because we saw increases across all of our subgroups, but most are still not back to our pre-pandemic results, so we need to attempt to return there. We have a gap of 81% to 21%, so again, a significant gap between our subgroups that we need to address. Now, there are all the slides on here that show you subgroup by state. I just want to walk you through one of those, and then we're going to move past them. But we're going to walk through the Hispanic example for a moment. So we also take our district and compare it to the state. Again, we always want to be outperforming the state. What's exciting for our Hispanic students this year is you'll see that that green line has trended above the all-student average, right? So we like to keep it that way. And they are making great growth in English language arts. And we are working to close the gap. So Lindsay will also look at what's happening for our Hispanic students to see if we can simulate that, right, for our African American student population. And then for the first time ever for our Hispanic students in math, they have crossed above the all-student average. So again, that's a win, but we still have room to go to close our gaps. Okay, bear with me as all right, so let's just quick talk about our programs at a high level. As you're aware, we always and nationwide districts struggle with how do you address gaps between students who are free and reduced lunch eligible, who are homeless, students with disabilities, and English language learners, right? You can see we still have room to grow. Here, our English learners are only at a 7% proficiency rate on English language arts. Now, to caveat that, right, it is an English language arts test, and by definition, to be in the English learner subgroup, you have not tested proficient on the state AZELA English test, right? So we do have to keep that narrative in mind, right? But does not mean we shouldn't strive to work with these students to then become proficient on the AZELA so they can increase their proficiency rates in the English language arts assessment. Yeah.
To add to that, it would also mean that when they become proficient, they often reach a different level of service or exit out of that. And then now it's like,
have access to more content. And
is there any data from the state that allows us to see like 2-3 years past being exited, that we can see that they're maintaining a solid level?
That, yes and no. That's why I wanted to include that fluent English proficient subgroup, because those are your students who you track for 4 years. Because historically, before COVID and before AZ Merit, FEP students, fluent English proficient, would outperform non-English speakers by year 4. Like, that's how much they can excel. So unfortunately, the state sometimes disaggregates data that way, and sometimes they don't. I have made a request for these reports that they separate them out so that we can see how our fluent English proficient students are doing, because that's a true indicator of their success once they have learned English.
Thank you.
Is there, and just because I don't know, is there, since the pandemic, our Hispanic students, is there a difference between pre-pandemic, between the amount of time that we've had them, and post-pandemic, the amount of time we've had them? Was there a gap in new folks coming in that may have made that change happen?
Yeah, so that's a hard analysis to do because it's a year-over-year assessment change in terms of student populations, right? So we can try to dig at that, but there's no simple way to try to figure out their longevity with us for each grade level.
Yeah, don't hurt yourself on that. I didn't know if anybody had. I didn't know if anybody had asked that before. So.
It's one of the reasons that we like to utilize cohorts instead of year-over-year or grade, right, comparisons. But cohorts are really hard to define. We made an effort to do it for one of the board achievement goals, because at what point does a cohort start, and when they drop off and come back, do you pick them, right? Like, and the amount of students you lose throughout a cohort is actually pretty excessive. So it's a really challenging data element that we're still grappling with and trying to understand how to best capture that. Good question, though. So with regards, oh, sorry, did you? Okay. With regards to English language arts, you can see we did have an increase for our homeless student population and our limited English proficient. That's what the state term is for our English learners. But still, we have a ways to go. Likewise with math, all of our subgroups made either a state held constant or saw a slight increase, right? But we are still significantly lower on our math results for these students that needs to be addressed, right? So that will be a focus area for us with our ESSER funding this year, offering the additional math support. Okay, and again, here's all the slides. So if you want to do your own analysis or call me and I'll walk you through it. It's there. A couple conclusions we wanted to highlight, right? We always want to highlight some success, not on the slide, but we outperform the state at every level, right? At the state level, at the subgroup level, at the grade level. We did make gains in both ELA and math, right? And we also made some gains for several subgroups, particularly in English language arts, returning some of them to pre-pandemic results. And again, like I mentioned, we outperform the state. Areas of improvement, not surprisingly, we need to continue to work to close gaps between all of our subgroups, programs, right? So, race, ethnicity, and then male, female. And because our results have not yet returned us to pre-pandemic for math, overall the district will continue with a focus on math.
Are there any other questions from the board? Dr. Fletcher, thank you so much for going over all these. I know that you kind of skipped over some of the slides, in essence of time, but they're all here for us to look at and to kind of go over and see where we're at. But I think that this is a good positive for the district. And I mean, I know we have work to do still, and I will look forward to hearing about some of the strategies that we're going to be utilizing to help close those gaps and bring some of those students up to a higher proficiency level. So thank you.
Barb, I do have a question.
Yes, Mr. Worth.
So I'm assuming these statistics are similar national throughout the country?
Depends
With the decline during COVID and so forth?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, we saw the NAEP, right, the National, Assessment, something, the national level, I should know that. That is the national level test. I don't know if you saw in the news, it was major national headlines, the declines in grade 4 and grade 8 in English language arts and math across the nation thanks to the pandemic. They were predicting it's a 3 to 5 year undertaking to try to get students back not only up to speed, but able then to proceed, right, without having to hold them back. So on the national test, yeah, we are seeing this across the board. Mm-hmm.
As well as, Dr. Fletcher, the gaps are pretty similar when you look at specific communities too. But again, it depends on the buildup of that community. But the gaps are pretty similar too. The gender between boys and girls exists as well. I don't know if I attribute that to, I don't know if girls read longer into their high school years or not, but their language arts scores are usually higher.
Well, and I think that we also see not only the gaps there, but we also see gaps when we go into graduation rates between genders also. Yep. And so there's something there that we have to look at and figure out and to determine why is there this type of gap within, I mean, even in something as very simple as gender, that we are seeing that. You know, you think, oh, you're raising your boys and girls, the same way, but, with both of your kids, but then you see such a disparity in these things. So, anyway. Ms. Love?
So I looked at this, right? And especially, this is why I brought up the African-American students, right? Because the trend for African-American students for ELA in the state is going up, and it's just us going down. So that means there's a problem with us, correct?
For that last year, maybe not a problem, but something we could do better.
Mm-hmm. I define it as a problem. I don't see problems as a bad thing. Mm-hmm. I do believe that it's just an opportunity for us to figure out what's happening. Yep. But I do believe that this is why we need equity in our district, and we need to be looking at what is happening with those students. We also, we don't have the data to break it down by other affinity groups like our LGBTQ students too. So if we talk about like intersectional issues that come across or issues of poverty, we don't have that to cross-reference, correct?
We can cross-reference if they do submit free and reduced lunch applications, right? So that is a self-reported.
Yeah.
We can cross-reference that, but the others, we do not collect the data on because the state does not.
It would be interesting for a future report, even though I will not be here, to see like those trends between poverty and race as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But the gender stuff, that makes sense for me as a social worker, just because of how we socialize girls versus boys. So that's not new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thank you. We appreciate the update, and we'll look forward to hearing more from you in the future. Next, we have our road agenda, the board agenda roadmap. And our next meeting is November 16th. We will be looking at a space utilization update at that time. We will be looking at, I guess November is Native American Heritage Month. And we will also be looking at our first view of our junior high and high school course catalogs, I believe, at that time. Are there any questions or comments? All right, Mr. Narducci, superintendent comments.
Madam President, members of the board, and our public, this month is National School Principal Appreciation Month. We are celebrating our principals on social media, and stay tuned for a special video shout out to our principals directly from our students. Principals, your work is so very important to our schools, to our community, and to our school district, and we thank you for all that you do to always put our students and student outcomes first. So many hours that are put in that we don't see that our administrators are at the schools supporting our students. Niche came out with its list of top schools in the nation, and Phoenix Business Journal did a write-up on the schools. Included on the list is our very own ACP High School. Congratulations to Arizona College Prep High School for being named one of 6 leading Valley Public Schools to make Niche's national top 100 list. It's also School Bus Safety Month. As we talked about buses earlier and the delay on our buses. Did you know that according to the National Transportation Safety Board, school buses are the safest vehicle on the road? Their yellow color and flashing lights, along with the unique way the school bus seats are built, all absorb shock and make buses extremely safe for our students. And I know Ms. Berry always says that being in the bus is probably the safest place to be. Thank you to our CUSD transportation team for always putting student safety first. In addition, I'd like to tell you about a community event that our counseling and social services team is hosting on October 27th. This event is designed to reduce stigma and raise awareness around mental health. The event will feature a national speaker, Teen Lifeline, and other resources on this important topic. Again, the event is October 27th, and it is from 4:30 to 7:30, and it's being hosted at the Chandler Police Department Training Headquarters. And last but not least, I'd like to end this report by showing you the recent episode of our Superintendent's Focus video series. These series showcases the staff and systems that help our students and schools succeed. In this episode, 5, it focuses on preschool and CUSD, and we'd like you to take a look at that.
My name is Frank Narducci, Superintendent of Chandler Unified School District. In Chandler Unified, we serve students as young as 3 years of age. On this episode of Superintendent's Focus, we look at preschool and CUSD. Whether you're looking for more play, more structure, or even dual language experiences, we have a wide variety of preschool options for your student. Now, let's go meet some of our littlest learners.
Somebody said
Is he really tall?
Yeah.
He's really tall.
Somebody said cartoon dog.
What?
Somebody said cartoon dog.
I have the privilege of being with Dr. Kim Marshall, who is our Executive Director for Student Personalized Learning. Kim, I know we have a variety of different preschool programs. Can you explain what some of those are?
The majority of our programs focus on students under 4 years old, but all parents should start with our community education website where they register their interest in attending one of our programs. Depending upon what the parents are looking for and the unique needs of the students, we can help them with that choice to make sure that their students' unique needs are met.
Kim, can you tell us how our early childhood programs are different than, say, non-public school programming?
One of the greatest differences, I believe, is the fact that we have early childhood certified teachers. We serve all kids.
What are the benefits for a child to attend preschool in the same district that they will attend K through 12 education?
I think the greatest benefit is the connection to their school communities. And if their school doesn't have a preschool program located on their campus, we can certainly look at that, especially if there's interest in that area. Some of our parents have even chosen to attend one of our preschool, pre-K programs and then make a different choice for kindergarten. And that's the beauty of being in a large district with a variety of options to choose from.
Tell us why parents should even consider preschool as an option.
It appears that preschool really is almost like the new kindergarten. The standards continue to be more rigorous, which is great. We want to challenge our students. And when our students have those early learning experiences, they learn some of those student skills so that way they're ready to come into kindergarten where there's maybe a little bit more structure than what they had in a play type of a scenario when it came to preschool. They know how to share. They know how to take turns and talk with their friends and make friends, as well as be challenged with some of those early learning standards with some early developmentally appropriate academic skills.
If you could give me 3 words to describe our preschool and early learning experiences in Chandler, what would they be?
I think I might give you 4 words, Frank. The first of that would be innovative. We have really come up with some very unique programming options for parents to consider. Inclusive. We have been building our inclusivity of welcoming all students of all abilities. Creative. Our teachers provide creative activities to make sure that they're providing kids with those learning opportunities and making sure that they're meeting the early learning standards. And then nurturing. Because as our littles come into our preschools, we want to make sure that our parents know and feel that their students are going to be nurtured along the way so that way they leave, they're confident, they're happy, and they're excited to be at school.
What superhero are you? You're the Justice League, yeah! It's never too early to start thinking about preschool, or even kindergarten for that matter. With so many excellent early learning options in CUSD, the choice really is yours.
And that was released now just basically because we know our families are making decisions right now in their mind of where they want their children next year. And we hope we can provide a program for them here in CUSD.
Thank you, Frank. You're a movie star now. Well, we don't have to go into that. But board member comments and recognition. Shall we start with you, Mrs. Bruner?
Sure. I just wanted to thank everyone at Galveston for the wonderful Contigo Festival that quite a few folks were there. It was a very popular event. I believe we have Carlson's anniversary coming up soon here on Friday. This Friday,
yes.
Yeah. And it was already mentioned, but I hope everyone considers attending the mental health session, the forum at the Safety Training Center on Dobson Road on October 27th. And lastly, on Saturday, we have 2 other mental health events. There's a walk in Chandler, as well as all our students that are in Bring Change to Mind clubs at our high schools have the opportunity to attend the summit this Saturday as well. So lots of opportunities for students for mental health awareness and activities and a forum for the community as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Bruner. Mr. Olive, anything?
No.
Okay. Ms. Love?
Yes, thank you. So I just also wanted to explain with the consent agenda, the reason that I voted no was because of the instructional program policy revisions. I just did not agree with that. I think that, as I explained in our last meeting, that those are harmful to our students. I was happy to see the RFP pass for mental health services, but I think having those 2 things in the same consent agenda just kind of feels tone deaf because on one hand, we're talking about the mental health of all students, but we've passed a policy revision which does nothing and actually targets our LGBTQ students. So that was the reason that I voted no. I am hopeful that, what are the barriers to what the students were asking for in terms of like their list of demands? Just because it didn't really seem all that intensive or something that we can't do. And I'm also wondering why we're not looking into the amendment that Tempe Union High School District passed to protect our LGBTQ students. I did talk with board member Burdetta Hodge, and she was explaining to me that they were able to find like a loophole in the AIA to not pass some of these revisions and to pass this amendment. So I'm hoping that we're looking into that and we're sitting down and talking with our students about some of their demands. It honestly doesn't feel like it's too hard to acknowledge them, especially as we're talking about mental health. We have not done anything with our LGBTQ students, and we're hearing about our students being dead named, which is detrimental to their mental health. And the fact that we had students who wanted to show up to speak tonight but did not feel safe to speak, that's a problem. And I'd like to see us do better and name how we're doing better instead of talking about it behind closed doors. We are the board. We're all sitting up here at this dais, so we're the top. And if we're not doing better as the top, then how does that funnel out to the rest of the districts to make sure that we're bringing the safety of our LGBTQ students to mind? So that was just my comment.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Love. Mr. Worth?
I guess, Lindsay, I agree. The problem that you run into having been on the liability board, we have complete immunity as a board, but the minute you purposely violate state law, we lose that immunity and we become personally liable. That's where you got to just be careful. But I agree with you.
You know, and I understand that, but Tempe Unified has the same lawyers that we do, and they were able to find that loophole given the fact that they are members of the AIA. And so I really hope that we're exploring all avenues here. Just because it's a policy, if we know the policy is wrong and it makes our students unsafe and targets them, doesn't mean that, you know, we should just pass it blindly. And so I'm hopeful that, you know, superintendents are talking and that we're talking and reaching out to other board members in other districts who have found a way around it.
Thank you. At this point, I will adjourn the meeting, and we will see you in, I think it's 4 weeks? 3 weeks. Must be 4 weeks. So we'll see you in 4 weeks. We only have one meeting in November and one in December, and I believe our next is the 16th of November. So enjoy your evening, and thank you for attending tonight.